Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's podcast. In relationships today, I want to talk about saying what you're going to do and then doing what you're going to do. And I think this is a really big one in relationships when people just say they're going to do this and yes, I'll do that and yes, I'll do this. And we make all these mini promises and sometimes very big promises, and then we don't do the action that goes with it. Saying you're going to do something is great. Doing it is the best. And if you're married or living with somebody or in a relationship with someone who keeps saying they're going to do things and they don't actually follow through and do them, after a while it's going to start to impact on your relationship in a negative way. If you're the person who keeps saying you're going to do things but then you really don't have an intention of actually really doing it, you're going to impact on your relationship in a really negative way. And the reason is because it's a breach of trust. Every time you tell somebody you're going to do something and then you don't do it, they trust you less. And it's a quiet thing. For the first 10 things that they say they're going to do and then they don't do, or won't fix, or won't change, or won't do something to alter to make it work, you sort of suck it up and you just sort of watch it. But as the time goes by, and sometimes the months or the years go by, there becomes like a accumulation of all these little broken promises, and you begin not to trust them. You don't trust their word because you can't. Now, we all say things that we're going to do and then we don't do them sometimes. That's just normal human way we are. We say it, we think we can do it, we'll end up not doing it. But we actually own that. We own that we didn't do it. This situation, people don't even own it. They won't even fess up to it. And if you challenge them on something, they become defensive and blame you for nagging them or something, or picking on them when they actually said they would do it for you or for the family. It's really important to talk to your partner about this one. The most important thing is, if you don't want to do it, if you're not in agreement, don't agree. Because a lot of people will just agree and they actually haven't thought it through, or they don't actually want to do it, or they've decided that it's not for them, or they're passive aggressive with you and they're going to say it, and then when you're not looking, they won't do it. What happens is you don't feel supported, and you don't feel supported on lots of levels, maybe physically because it's something that they said they'd help you with, but now when it's come to it, they've got a sore leg, or they're busy, or they can't make it, or they've got to still stay at work. It can also be emotional, where they said they'd give you support, but when you went to them, it was like talking to the wall, or they weren't that interested, or gave you some dumb solution to the situation where you didn't want a solution, we just wanted some emotional support. It can also be like a mental support thing, where you're asking for help with some problem solving or some advice, and then they just won't, they say they're going to help you with that, but then when it comes to the crunch, they're not that interested in really following through. It's follow through really in the end. If you don't agree or you don't want to do it, don't say you're going to do it. It's that simple. If you say you're going to do it, make a really good effort at actually doing it, actually following through and do it. And then if you don't do it and you get picked up on it, admit to it and then fix it. This is quite a quiet death of the relationship. In the end, people sort of step back from you. You'll start stepping back from your partner if they're like this, and you won't really trust anything they say to you, and you won't believe them. And that will push into all other areas and start to really mess things up. You won't feel confident in their word. You won't feel that you can just let them go ahead and do it because you don't trust they will do it. For example, if they're supposed to pay the electricity bill today before like cut back time of 5 o'clock, you don't trust that they'll actually do the electricity bill. So then you'll end up having to like double back and check on them, and then they don't like it because they tell you that you're nagging. But there's a reason for that, because they've set up a pattern of not following through. If they're supposed to pick the kids up and a few times now they're not doing it, or they've forgotten, or the kids are sitting there for 40 minutes waiting because they put something in front, you'll start to not trust that they're going to pick the children up. There's so many things that they start that you don't trust them anymore. And I think that's what you've got to talk to your partner about. I need to be able to trust your word, that your word is your honour, and that if you say you're going to do it, you make 100% effort to do it. If you don't want to do it, you say, I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it, get someone else, and then at least I know. The most frustrating part is not that they say it, they're going to do it, that they don't do it. The actions don't match the words. And this is a real relationship killer. It can kill relationships in families. If you have people in your family who tell you that they're going to support you and be there for you, but they're not, and then every time you try and pull in a bit of help, they're not available. And sometimes they won't be emotionally available. If you're going through a really difficult stage, they won't actually be there for you emotionally. They'll go and hide away. It can also happen with your friends. You can have friends who say they're going to be there and, you know, whatever you want, and I'll be there and just call me. But then if you did call them, or when you have called them, they actually don't answer, or they don't return your texts, or they're not available. Now, we can't expect people to fix our stuff up. It is our stuff, a lot of it. But some of it ends up being the together stuff, the joint stuff that we're supposed to do, like paying the electricity bill or picking up the kids. That becomes a joint activity, and that's where you're going to get unstuck. What will happen is you will start to live an autonomous life. You will start to live a single life in this relationship. You will start doing everything yourself. Everything that you think is important that has to be done, or you can't trust I'll do it, you will start to do it yourself. And that's going to start to erode the togetherness, because basically you're going to pick up more and more of the slack. I mean, it can work really well for them because they get out of doing a million things, but you'll start to become resentful and probably maybe passive aggressive, or you might even get angry sometimes because you're carrying so much of the load, because you can't trust that they'll actually do it. Have a look at this one. It's quite a big one in a relationship of all sorts, actually, but in a love relationship it seems to have a lot of impact, because your belief system is that if the person loves you, they'll do anything for you. You might be that way too. If you love somebody, you'll do anything for them, and that they are the priority, and you'll put them first. Perhaps that's the way you see it, but maybe it's not the way that they're doing it. And that's what I want you to observe. At the beginning of the love relationship, they'll do everything for you, because in a sense they're trying to win you, as you are probably trying to win them in a good way, and you're trying to secure the relationship. So they'll do lots for you. It's just once they've got you in the relationship and now they feel sort of secure, that's when you'll notice that it'll start falling away more and more and more and more. Have the honest talk with your partner. Get the understanding that if you don't want to do it, or if you're not going to do it, or you don't think you'll follow through, just say, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that properly, and sometimes I'm going to mess it up, and be honest. But don't say you're going to do it when you're not going to do it. I found that you sort of slide away from the person. It's quiet and you probably don't even notice it, but you generally start just sliding away. You give them less responsibility because you know they're not going to do it. You don't go to them for certain things that you really need done. You go to someone else, or just use yourself to do this. You stop trusting their word. So even if they say they are going to do it, you'll kind of second guess that and go off and probably get it done yourself. I feel like it's starting to live on your own a little bit in the relationship, and it can feel a bit alone. It's not really such a good thing, because you're not working as a team. Actually, they've got their team and they're on the team, and it's everything for them. But you've got your team, and that's them and you, and you're doing everything for us. So it's got a different foundation. It's something you might not see at the beginning of relationships, in all of those ones we spoke about, but it's insidious, and it will come through, and you will start to see it, the people that you can trust and the people that you can't. And it's kind of sad, because love and trust are the actual foundations of good relationships. That's the foundation. But you have to have the trust. You can have the love, but if you don't have the trust, it kind of will mess up the love, because you love them, but there's a big hole there where you can't trust them. It's important you deal with this. It's important you talk to your partner about it, because in the end you'll end up being like two separate people, and you will become quite an angry little ant, and they will start to irritate and annoy you because they just keep disappointing you. Really, it's really disappointing when you ask people for help or support, or they make promises and then they constantly break them. The other way is if you want to stay in the relationship, you don't ask them for stuff that's important. I think that's sad, but if you want to be with them, you can do that. But I still think the undercurrent is that you probably can't trust their word. And that's the thing, that's the worst thing about this, that you don't trust their word. It's all words. That's all it is, just words. And there's no doing, and there's no action, and there's no follow through. See how you go with this one. Have a look in your relationship. If you're doing it, maybe it's time not to promise to do things you're not really going to do, either because you don't want to, you're not capable of doing, or for some other reason. Be honest with your partner and say, no, I'm not comfortable, I'm not going to do it. They might be a little bit angry with you or not like your response, but ultimately it's the truth, and you're living and standing in the truth with your partner. You're not just giving them a whole heap of stories that you're not going to follow through. I hope you have a good week. I hope that if you have this in your relationship, you can fix it, because I think it's fixable. It's just, if you say it, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't say you're going to do it. It's pretty simple. Okay, I'm sending you lots of love and lots of light.